I'm not hearing music.
You're not hearing music.
Mm-mm.
Hmm. Well, that's when Christine changes her audio around, and then I don't hear
Okay.
music. But we were dancing and looking
I
great
will. I
even
can
without the
dance.
music.
I can dance regardless.
Oh, tech, 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 tech. I love it. So, for our visual listeners, they won't hear the music, but for our
Mhm.
audio listeners, the music will be on. So, it's the magic of tech too. Hello,
All right.
hello, hello, my friend. How are you?
Hello. I am so good. How are you?
I am well. For our listeners who are watching and listening, we have a guest co host today. So I
Oops.
guess we should go ahead with
Something.
official introductions and then we'll get into the chat. Does that
Okay.
work?
That works
All
for
right,
me.
here we go. Hey, y'all, I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, and published author who helps you upgrade your self and community care. And today we have a special guest co host.
Hello, I am Cecile Armstrong. I am a brown skinned woman and I am a facilitator. I teach anti racism and equity with self care and joy. I help people get in their bodies and practice self forgiveness and breathe so that we can actually have those tough conversations and we can hear each other instead of talking past each other and being so defensive and we can actually make some progress.
Whoop, whoop. And
Woo!
together we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast grounded in the 8 dimensions of wellness and calling the name of our friend and regular co host, Shannon Mitchell, who is unable to be with us today. So
Yes,
we miss you, Shannon, and we will
we
see you
do.
next week. So every week we get together and we have intentional conversations about wellness, how to be well in relationships and business and life. And I am so glad to have this conversation with you today, Cecile.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy for the opportunity and to spend time with you talking about this because this is important.
Right. Today's
Hmm.
topic, we're talking about emotional and mental wellness. So before we get to the definition, let's just do a check in with each other. Both you and I are body based practitioners.
Hmm.
And I know this because we've collaborated together. We like to start almost every class or gathering with a deep breath. So, how about
Yes.
we do it? Like, let's
I
just
could
take a
use one right
moment.
now.
All right, let's take a moment to take a couple of deep breaths together. Here we
Okay.
go. Let's do one more. And if you want to, shake out any stress that might have crept in today. And for
Yeah.
folks that are listening and not watching, I'm also rolling my shoulders because
Hmm.
just in all transparency, I've had a knot in my shoulder for about a week that is getting worked on, but whew, it's where I'm carrying all my stress.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, with my inhale and exhale, I was definitely stretching because I needed more than just the breath. I needed to stretch my whole
Right?
body.
Right? Because there's been a
Yeah.
lot going on,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know everybody I'm talking to, all my clients, all my colleagues, there's personal stuff in
Hmm.
addition to world stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the combo right now is pretty incredible,
It is. It's overwhelming sometimes.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So, we're going to be talking today about emotional and mental wellness and how do we do this? How do we do this? So, I'm going to read the definition and then we'll have a chat and then we're going to bring on our awesome guest for today.
Sounds good.
So, according to the National Institutes of Health, emotional and mental wellness, how you feel can affect your ability to carry out everyday activities, your
Hmm.
relationships, and your overall mental health. How you react to your experiences and feelings can change over time.
Hmm.
Emotional wellness is the ability to successfully handle life stresses and adapt to change and difficult times.
That totally makes sense, and that's a huge thing.
Right?
That that's a
It's
that's a big thing to be able to intentionally um, take care of how you relate and how you respond. Whew. Yeah.
Right? And well, and that I like that ability to successfully handle. Boy, that
Mhm.
sounds so benign, right? But when you think about what we've all been going through lately, there's a lot of life stresses, change,
Mhm.
and difficult times.
Mhm.
So, what is one of your, Cecile, and we'll talk about it more when we bring our guest on, but like, what is one of your pro tips or go tos to handling life stressors?
Definitely getting grounded.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say for everyone, when I can start the day grounded, I do better throughout the day. And when I remember to check in with myself and ground throughout the day, that just makes my day go so much smoother. And when I don't take the time to do that, when I like rush into it and I don't take time throughout the day, I find myself scattered and getting bumped around emotionally, even physically sometimes, because when you're not grounded, it's easy for you to just be in somebody else's way. So grounding is huge for me.
Right. And for our
Yeah.
listeners that grounding might be a new practice, or maybe they are grounding and they don't realize what they're doing. What do you define as grounding? Like, give some examples of how you ground.
Okay, well, grounding is being centered and being in your body. That's what it is. And there are several ways to get there. One way is through meditation. For me, when I go to the beach, that is such a grounding place for me. I can be as stressed, I can be like ready to cry, ready to scream, and I go to the beach, and as soon as my feet hit the water, it's like the water just washes it all away. So, being outside in nature is a great way to get grounded. Well, you've heard me talk about this before, actually on your podcast, how I go outside every day barefoot. I'm barefoot in the grass every day because that's one way for me to get connected to my body and remember what it feels like to be connected to the earth.
Right.
There's a ton of other ways to get grounded, but those are the things that work for me.
I
And
am
I know
with you,
you
my
ground
friend.
too. I know
I
you ground
do.
too. So,
I like to go out in my backyard. I am
mhm.
lucky enough to have built a labyrinth back there, so I like to go back and greet the sunrise
Mm,
with some morning meditation and walking and really taking that moment to breathe. And to me,
yeah.
like, and an interplay, we know that just even taking that deep breath and letting it out with focused
Hmm.
intent is a
Yes.
grounding.
Hmm.
Because so much in our society we're just go 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 go. So
Right.
even lately, our co-founder of Interplay, Phil Porter, has been adding a thing into our warm-up that he says, take 30 seconds and do nothing.
Hmm.
And that doesn't sound like a long amount of time, but 30
When
seconds,
you're when you're
right?
when you're going, and you feel like you can't stop and you've got to get this stuff done, 30 seconds can seem like a really long time.
Right. And I would
Hmm.
invite any of our listeners to do that, just to
Hmm.
take 30 seconds or a minute and be still and
Hmm.
see what bubbles up. But yeah, and but I mean, it really ties into what we're talking about today about emotional and mental wellness, because sometimes we
Hmm.
don't want to be still because we're not
Right.
feeling emotionally or mentally well, right?
Hmm.
So, if you are ready, I want to introduce our guest today and
Oh,
bring
I am
on.
so ready.
Are you? I can't. Y'all met right before the show, and like two peas in a pod. I am so excited
Right.
to have this conversation between the three of us. I will, as always, especially when it's a friend, I read the bio directly so I don't mess it up.
Hmm.
So here, let me go for it. Monisha Mittal is a spiritual guide, facilitator, and certified sacred depths coach who became an interplay leader in 2020, one of my interplay colleagues that I adore. As someone who always felt she didn't belong, interplay helped her realize she has always listened to her surroundings through her whole body and the wisdom that lives in there. Her focus has always been on bridging communication between the unheard and the heard. Her passion is to help people connect to their soul expressions and navigate challenges from a deeper wisdom. She offers workshops, one on one deep dive sessions, and is also working on completing a book on listening to our body's wisdom titled We Move for Our Own Joy, Learning the Language of Our Physicality.
I
I
love
am
it.
right. I am
Yeah.
so excited to introduce y'all to my friend and colleague Monisha. Welcome to Women
Hey,
Connected
Monisha.
in Wisdom.
Hi, Christine. Hi, Cecile. I'm really, really delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
We are so delighted to have you, my friend. How are you today?
I am so well. I am so well. It's been just a sweet flowing of days, even with the different things that I'm juggling. But it goes right back to some of the things Cecile and you were talking about to let me have that because it's not like there's not a ton going on. There's a
Right.
ton going on, but
Mm-hmm.
it has been a sweet couple of days. I'm really grateful for that experience.
Right?
Yeah.
One of the things I know, because y'all are my friends and our listeners don't know, is all three of us have at different times and different capacities been caregivers, in addition to running businesses, working in
Mm-hmm.
jobs, taking care, household management. That's a big job to have, in addition to our own emotional and mental wellness.
Mm-hmm.
So, Monisha, like, what do you do? What's a pro tip? What do you do for emotional and mental wellness?
Yeah, so I have a couple of things to add to what we talked about. So my body system is one that has ran anxious on like it's an
Mhm.
anxious nervous system for a really long
Mm-hmm.
time. Also been quite prone to low grade depression.
Mm-hmm.
So, what has really evolved into practice for me, I really need to be yoked to my breath, right? So, it's like that union
Mm-hmm.
of breath in my body. And so, doing meditation pretty much every morning,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I can feel that I'm being breathed, that helps me
Yes.
relax. So that's kind of one big thing. And then
Mm-hmm.
the second thing is yoga. So with yoga, it's just like a 20-25 minute thing. And I do it, in my house, with the YouTube free videos. I have this woman that I love, Yoga with Adrienne, and what that does is there's just a sequel. What it does without you even needing to worry about it, it just takes out all the blocks. Like if you slept a little funny or if you're carrying a piece of energy, it's creating a little river of energy all in your body. And then there's this
Mm-hmm.
place where it's just like it all frees you. And I'm like, oh, I'm here, and that's kind of my coffee moments, like I'm awake.
Oh,
Love
I
that.
love that, Monisha. And
Yeah.
I'm going to put that in the show notes too, so folks can find your morning yoga with Adrian.
Oh yeah, oh my God, she's phenomenal. So then I have a third tip. Now, the couple of things we've all been mentioning are day-to-day things, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that they're really important for, just like not feeling overwhelmed and which again, like those days I call them waterfalls. I just feel like I've been on a waterfall and I'm just, um being swept away. But so I think the longer term practice, and I think that gets to kind of some of the things I was listening to in that definition that you read. We have this beautiful interplay practice called noticing. And I think the
Mhm.
beautiful thing with noticing, so I wrote a quote the other day on my post, and it said, it's a very different skill set to be able to have a feeling without the story of the feeling. And
Mm-hmm.
so, that's the thing. We have emotional wellness in particular. We're, we have a lot of stories from our past as to when something's happening and what that triggers in us emotionally, what that triggers in our
Mm-hmm.
nervous system. And so, this ability to watch our experience while we're having the experience, the ability
Mhm.
to watch, to have the experience while watching the experience, that means we can have our emotions but not be overwhelmed by them. We have
Mm-hmm.
a greater chance to catch that breath, and separate the story from what's happening for us actually.
Mm-hmm. That is a skill. When I first heard about that, being able to have your experience and observe at the same time, it took me a while to figure out how to be able to do that. And even now, even though I know how to do it, I have to say it's not second nature. It's something that I actually have to stop and remind myself. So that, I mean,
It's a
it
lot of
works.
practice.
It
Yeah.
works, but that's a skill.
Yeah, it's a beautiful skill, and it's just like
Hmm.
it just goes along with meditating. Like, gosh, when I began meditating, like, well, my gosh, a minute was hard,
Yeah.
now 20 minutes is easy peasy, so.
Hmm.
It took me years, y'all. Y'all are not going to be surprised with my energy level. It took me years to be able to meditate. What I had to figure out, because I'm a very kinesthetic learner. And so what I had to figure out is I need to do yoga before I meditate, or I need to go for a walk before I meditate. I've always been a
Mhm.
little envious of folks that can just drop down and meditate, and I'm not one of them. But I figured out, well, the way is I have to get out some of my physical energy in
Hmm.
order to be able to sit still. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's lovely.
That
Well,
makes sense, though.
but then that's the I got into meditation through moving meditation. I mean, I
Hmm.
couldn't get into meditation without someone. I learned it through moving meditation. So someone guided us to just being able to move any way the body wanted. And so that was what dropped me into the fact that my body could lead. Like, I didn't have to be in control and I could get out of my mind. So all those
Hmm.
things, were kind of necessary to get me to that place.
Hmm. Well, before I could do the traditional kind of meditation, I learned Zentangle. That's a drawing meditation, and that's what got me into it because I couldn't just sit still, and just that little bit of movement with my hand and focusing on marking on the
Love it.
paper was able to get me into that state.
That is
So,
lovely. That is lovely.
mhm,
And I think the other thing I'd bring up is like all these things are personal strategies, and obviously that's so important.
mhm,
But I just can't also underestimate the value of a community. Like,
mhm,
spending time incrementally over your life to build the relationships that allow you to be yourself, so
mhm,
that people who might just understand to listen, like when your emotions are getting the better of you, like, that's something I try to offer people.
mhm,
When I can see it, just like, if you need someone to listen, just, call. And I think that that helps it helps me a lot.
mhm,
Yeah.
I sometimes take for granted, I'll be really honest, like how awesome my community is. Because even like when you said that, Monisha, I mean, I literally could think of 10 people I could call.
That's
And I
wow,
realize even as you
amazing.
say that out loud, like there's a lot of people that may not have that person. And
mhm,
so, like, the seeking out a community or a group of people that will listen and hold space for you, I think
mhm.
it's not to be undervalued, that's for sure.
No, not at
No,
all.
I think I say that from a place of absolutely having the experience when I was younger, that I was all alone in this thing called life.
Mhm,
Yeah.
And I do have paid professionals, coaches, and that I have invested in for experiences. And I know that sounds like a luxury, but it's also something we can build towards. I think it's
mhm,
absolutely, many times I think it's insane not to have those resources. But then finding other communities and building those relationships now, like 2 to 3 decades later, I can be like, oh my gosh, this is so different from when I was younger.
Me
mhm,
too.
mhm,
Me too. I really resonate that with that, Monisha, because people that know me now, like, have no idea how shy I was as a kid and,
Exactly.
like, how separated I felt, like, and I really like, people would be like, "What? Like,
I
you
would
have
not have guessed
problems."
that about you,
Right?
Exactly. Exactly. Christine
but
just
I
Right?
would not have guessed that about you. But then again, I was so shy when I was in school. I mean, the teachers couldn't even hear me when I would try to answer a question. So, you know, like,
Right.
mhm,
So what helped your Cecile, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm
mhm,
curious about your transformation because I have a moment of transformation in my life that I was like that opened myself up to being more. So what was there one certain thing for you to
um, I don't know that it was, well, I think it was a series of things that happened all at the same time when I was in high school. And it was a situation where I felt like I had to stand up for someone else. And it was several things that happened back to back where I saw injustice and I could not be quiet. And then I ended up being very vocal and very active and, ended up actually starting a campaign and collecting signatures to try to make change. So, and
Yep.
after that, it was just like, well, this is who I am and what I got to do.
Right.
That's
Hmm.
awesome.
Right. And
Yeah.
Monisha, what about you? Like, what helps you to feel connected?
Um, so let's see. Do you mean connected to my purpose?
Well, we can go to purpose, but even like going from being shy to being out there with your work in the world
Oh my
and
gosh, what a journey. Yeah, what a journey. So, um, that has been really tough, and from the sense of what really helped me is uh, there were mentors, specific mentors, I feel that really helped
Mhm.
me reclaim my voice. Like there were, for example, this woman in my workplace, she stepped in my path and just pointed out to me. She was just like, Monisha, you don't think the way other people think. You have a different processing system. And I got that like in my 30s. And so then I was like, oh, instead of being scared that there was something different about me, I could begin to, lean into it and say, oh, well, let me
Mhm.
explore this. Let me find out what that is. Um, and then it was like, growing up in a very traditional Asian culture, just not having access to my voice. And so it's been
Mhm.
a beautiful series of just like incremental steps, especially by other women. I need to point out other women supporting me in leadership roles and, that kind of thing, so that
Mhm.
I could claim my particular gifts and intelligences. And then with interplay, I feel the biggest thing I learned was baby steps. Like, we talk about the practice of
Mhm.
incrementality, but because of the way leaders training is, it helped me a ton because we could create these small incubator spaces and then I could keep growing, larger. So I would just say that's still a work in progress, but that has been, I'm in such wider waters rather than narrow waters from where I started.
oh, I love that.
Awesome.
Well, one of the things I know you've been up to that I want you to tell our listeners about because it's so exciting and I love it when we get these downloads. But tell us about Big Love Alchemy and that project that you've been working on.
Sure. So I would say, over the last 5 to 6 years, one of the biggest transformations that's happened and this goes back to the word Cecile used, intention. When we're intentionally trying to bring bigger awareness to our relationships. Well, I have. I've been able to transform relationships in my family, very personal, relationships with mother, with father, with sisters, like being very much the outcast, right, in my family um, to experience real relationships that I didn't have access to before.
Mhm.
And so I just felt that it was important to kind of vibrate that out to the world to let them know that there's this bigger plane of love that it's like this big ocean or glue that we're all like swimming in. And that there are ways, like things don't need to be problems. Like there are ways to attune to what we can do, or I mean, it doesn't have to be active. We don't have to speak, but it's just an attenuation. We can tune into this frequency of big love so that we can actually, in our 3D lives, experience real giving, rewarding, closer relationships.
I think I just heard a quote that I'm going to write down. Things don't have to be problems.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
So,
And
oh,
I
sorry.
just popped up for folks that are viewing, but I want to read it out loud for our folks that are listening. You can find the Big Love Alchemy on Facebook at page Your Inner Ease.
Yeah.
Your Inner Ease. I love that.
Thank
Mhm.
you. So what I'm doing is I'm creating these very mini podcasts. They're just about 10 minutes long, and I pick a theme and I read two poems from my inner heart. And so that gets people into the activation of the energy. So it could be about activating people's inner light. It could be about activating their inner divinity. And then for just a few moments after that, and I encourage people to have their experience with the listening, and to affirm what wants to be affirmed from what they heard, so that their body spirit is receiving the affirmation, the vibration in there that's meant for them. And then I just speak for a few minutes into the greater invitation of that theme and the inspiration for the poems. So
Oh my gosh, I love that.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
I'm gonna go look, I'm going on Facebook right now so I can follow that.
thank you.
Well, and you can download them on SoundCloud, right, Monisha?
Yeah, so basically, I am on Apple and Spotify, and I think I'm about to get on Lip Sync because I'm going to switch my
Okay.
platform over there following
Nice.
Christine's beautiful lead. But it's called Big Love Alchemy Sound Card Series, so it's totally fun. I feel like they're digital postcards, like sound
That's what I was gonna
postcards.
say, and
Yeah,
really yummy. Like, like if you're a person that needs to be guided in meditation, or your meditation is about just listening to something. These are beautiful bite-sized things that just, to me, get me in my heart, and of course get me connected to you, Monisha, because I hear your voice. And ah, now I know a secret that a lot of our listeners don't know that we didn't talk about ahead of time, so I hope it's okay. But you use this big love alchemy. You also do a thing called the Hidden Monastery.
yeah.
Do you want to tell folks about that?
Yeah, well, you mentioned Phil Porter. He's a co-founder of Interplay. Well, his other part of the co is a woman named Cynthia Winton-Henry, and she has very much delved into the spiritual side of body wisdom. And so her offering in the world is hiddenmonastery.com. And as part of that, she has created a format called Dance Chapel, and it's a 1 hour format, and people come with their intentions. We move. It's a place where you can dance your prayers, is
Oh,
probably the
cool.
best way to put it. Yeah, yeah. And it's gorgeous because you have space to move for yourself, but then you also have space to move on behalf of other people's prayers. Yeah,
Such a beautiful
Nice.
offering. And
yeah.
Yeah.
y'all, if you get a chance, go check it out. Monisha, you usually do one on Fridays, right?
Yeah, I'm taking August off, but I will be doing this Thursday. So it's from
Oh,
12:30 to 1:30 p.m. I'm co-hosting with Jane Searney.
oh, nice.
It's 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern time and 9:30 to 10:30 Pacific time.
And we will
Um,
put the link in the show
yes,
notes so
yeah,
folks can find it,
yeah,
because there's like seven or more offerings in the Hidden Monastery. Like almost
yeah,
every day you can find an offering,
yeah.
or you
Okay,
can
Almost
go,
every
cool.
day you were able to find two offerings. So there was
right?
one at 12:30, and then there was one at 7:30 at night. So.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So that's been beautiful. It's an incredible place what can come through for you in like just taking that 30-minute pause in your day.
I know
Mhm.
when Cynthia first started those, it's been a couple of years, but I was part of one of the communities for about a year. It was part of my mental and emotional well being. I would go
Mhm.
once a week. And so, highly recommend it for folks because it's a way to access your body wisdom, dance your prayers, like you said, Monisha, and just
Yeah.
be in community and be
Well,
seen and
that's like
held.
my biggest wish with Big Love Alchemy and anything I do is I just want people to know how much they're fundamentally whole to begin with. Like
Mhm.
no one is
Mhm.
broken and no one needs fixing. And all we want to do is just provide a space to reconnect people to what's already available to them,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
speaking about equality, I just think that's the most fundamental equalizer of all. Like if you're in
Mhm.
a body, you get access to your wholeness.
Exactly. Exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's the word.
That is the word.
I love that, y'all. I love
Mhm.
it. Well, when you think about your really hard days, when you think about days that we're knocked off center, or we get bad
Mhm.
news, or we're dealing with grief and loss, because we were having the conversation ahead of time before we got online that so many people in our world that we personally know or ourselves are dealing with grief and loss at this time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is there anything, especially when you're being tender with yourself, that you do that you might do differently than a regular day, like for your emotional and
Mm.
mental well-being?
Oh.
I have one to start us off with, and I'd love to hear Cecile's. So,
Mhm.
again, at the level of my physicality, sometimes I might just rock. Like I might just
Mhm.
need to rock, and
Mhm.
especially if there's an inner child trigger going on, that is a soothing exercise. That's just one thing I'll offer.
Mhm. Well, I totally feel you on the rocking thing because I do that too. um, and the other thing is that I intentionally give myself space not to think, to just feel. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes, especially if it's something around grief, I don't want to do it, but I know if I don't, I won't be able to function fully. And so, I'll just make myself just be still, and I don't talk to anybody. I don't have, the TV on. I don't look at my phone. And a lot of times the rocking is in combination with that, but I just breathe and feel what I feel. So I intentionally belly breathe instead of breathing up here, and just let myself feel what I feel, even if I don't want to feel it, because I know if I don't experience it, then it's shoved down and it's going to come out later, and I might not be able to control what that feels like or what it looks like at the time. I'll be
So,
snapping at somebody in the restaurant or something like that instead of just sitting with it for a minute.
I mean, I just feel like saying God bless you. I mean, that's like totally mastery level. You gotta, you gotta find a way to not make it wrong. You gotta find a way to not make it wrong,
Mhm.
that whatever you're feeling is your experience and that you get to
Mhm.
feel it. My other thing I would say is if I can't bear it,
Mhm.
even if it hurts, there's a couple of people I can just text, and I can
Mhm.
just state it in 2 sentences, and everyone knows, we all know, like, this is not about fixing anything, but just
Right.
to share that I'm going through this, kind of like the witnessing aspect,
Mhm.
that can help a
Oh yeah.
lot. Yeah,
Witnessing is huge.
yeah,
All right, Christine, what do you do?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I'm doing it badly, I like last week, I cry online on Zoom when I get wouldn't really recommend that. I was in a safe space when it happened, but I am a huge believer in hot Epsom salt baths for
Mm.
multiple reasons. But a lot of times when I'm feeling tender or grief and loss, or when I'm having a lot of, I'll go crawl in that bathtub and sit. I do the quiet and the sitting part, but I like to be surrounded by water when I do it.
Mm. Mhm.
Water is one of my magic places. So
Yes.
if I'm getting to where I'm too full, or it's too much or too big, I tend to go to the water.
Mhm.
And I had one of my Native American teachers teach me, Kim Pevia, she's with the Lumbee tribe in North Carolina. She said you can take it to the trees, but you also
Mhm.
want to make sure it's a hardwood tree. That you
Right.
don't want to. It doesn't want to be like a soft pine. You want to go to like an oak or a hardwood tree, and you
Mhm.
can lean against the tree and give them your grief, or that they can handle it, but it needs to be a bigger hardwood tree. So I thought
Yeah.
that was really good wisdom, because
Mhm.
like the two of y'all, I'm very connected to nature, so if I can do it where I'm in nature, I think that's a good thing.
Mhm. That's excellent. We had that a conversation about this last week, and I was in a space where there weren't any hardwood trees. But right when you were telling me this, the trees that were around, I knew that none of them could take what I was handling, and what I was handling was huge. But they invited me to sit. There were four smaller trees. They invited me to sit in the middle of them, and I felt like each one of them was taking a portion where none of them could have taken all of it. And so, I basically
Oh, I
sat
love
in the
that.
grass in the middle of these trees, and they all like helped me to process what had just happened.
Mm.
Oh, I'm glad
Mhm.
for you. Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this place in the woods near me that I kind of for me, like the trees are kind of in this interesting formation that they kind of feel like a labyrinth in and of
Mhm.
themselves. But in the middle, there's not one spot, there's two, and it actually looks like a male and a female tree. Just the vibe I get from them. And
Mhm.
so what I'll do is in addition to walking the labyrinth, I actually walk in an infinity sign in between the two trees.
I felt you getting ready to say that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful,
That's
Monisha.
beautiful. Mhm.
Yeah, it's so precious because I do just wanna to activate this for everyone is that, um, we're not here alone,
Mm-mm.
right? And we are held in the deepest cellular levels. The life force that animates us holds us, but there's also higher dimensions of ourselves. And so
Mhm.
you can ask for help at
Mhm.
any time and ask for help. You can ask for courage. You can ask, can somebody call me? And magically you'll find, you're
Mhm.
receiving a call. You can ask for, um, tenderness to me is finding the way that you can just actually experience the thing that wants to come out compassionately and with no judgment. And
Mhm.
so you can ask for all of that. And I think it's a really important tool to be connected to that.
I completely agree,
Yep.
Manisha. And when you say compassion, one of the other things that comes up for me is our friend, Dr. Cynthia Phelps, who's been a guest on the show, and she does self compassion. And one of the things she said is, she teaches that we all suffer, all beings suffer. And one of the things she does is a body thing where you just rub your arm, like you just kind of
Mhm.
soothe yourself. And especially if you're by yourself, like you can give yourself a hug or you can just rub and soothe yourself.
Yeah.
And I have gone to I mean, it sounds so simple, but I have gone to that so many times when
Mhm.
feelings get overwhelming, or I'm in a place like maybe I'm visiting somebody at the hospital, or, I'm going through it, that you can just rub on your own hand and
Yeah.
calm yourself and
Y-
Mhm.
be present with yourself.
Mhm.
What all of this reminds me of is like, my coaching was taught by a woman named Joanna Lindenbaum, who is amazing, and she's in North Carolina. I highly recommend you finding her Sacred Depths coaching. But one of the key things she teaches is like every single thing in the world wants to be seen, heard, and loved. And
Mhm.
that's really true with our feelings and our emotions. And so you know, you can soothe on the outside, but another way, as soon as you give what it is that's rising in you attention, it's like you guys can have a conversation, you and that
Mhm.
feeling, and then it's for you. Um,
Mhm.
you can also do it with sound. So you can simply tone into that emotion. And that's
Mhm.
a way of giving it loving attention. And then it's gonna speak back to you because it's gonna shift. It's gonna be like, oh yeah, I got my expression. And then
Mhm.
you can tone into the next energy that it shifts to. And anytime I've done that, because I had a pretty significant separation issue from my family when I was very little at 3.
Mhm.
And that's left a lot of, you know, emotional challenges. And so when I'm very prone to sadness, like sadness is a pretty constant accompaniment in my life. Been doing, anyway, it's all a journey, but I just want to say that a lot of times when I experience toning into my sadness, there'll be so many shifts, but it'll always, always go back to, it'll not back, but it'll always find its way to joy, you
Mhm.
know? So just that attention of like, you're here to love me too. I'm going to love you back. It'll always, always take you to joy.
What you're describing is actually a form of shadow work, and I
Yeah.
love the way you described it. Yeah.
But it doesn't
Mhm.
have to involve talking. I think that's one of
Right.
the most
Right.
beautiful things about inner play.
Mhm.
Right? So say
Yeah.
that again, Monisha. It doesn't have to involve talking.
Right.
Mhm.
No, there's so much of what happens inside us that's at the level of nonverbal. And you know what? God love it. And then you can communicate with it nonverbally. And
Mhm.
in fact, it's simpler and
Yeah.
it's more authentic
Mhm.
and it's so much less in our brains, and that's why
Yeah.
our body can help us, because our body is totally at that level.
Yeah, because everything you feel, you really can't put into words, and everything you experience, you really can't put into words to describe it to yourself, much less somebody else.
Yeah, and
Mm.
there's a way that if you have to put it into words, you're like having to put that into your cerebral cortex and have to go
Mhm.
there, and your emotions like, "Excuse me? I'm just here. I don't know what you're talking about up there with that brain thing, you know?" So,
And so many times, I know y'all probably haven't done this, but I have to own up I have. So, so many times I use that brain not to access all those emotions, like
exactly.
Mhm.
just to like stuff them down and
Right.
think about it, right? And
Or to make them
delay
a
that,
problem.
right?
Right.
All
Mhm.
of that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
to make it a barrier to emotional and mental wellness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, y'all,
I
this
I
has
will admit
been,
I do it.
I think every human being does it, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's a survival mechanism.
Mhm.
And especially when we got stuff to do. Like,
Right. Right. Mhm.
Well, just getting back to that grounding thing, I think that's one of the biggest reasons grounding helps me, is because it keeps things simple rather than
Mhm.
makes things analytical in my mind.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love that. Y'all, I have so enjoyed this conversation today.
Me
And
too.
every week on Women Connected and Wisdom podcast, we talk about wisdom in action. We do like a hashtag, wisdom in action. So if you had one thing for your emotional and mental wellness this week that you would hashtag wisdom in action,
Mm.
what would it be?
I mean,
Ac
go ahead, Cecile.
Oh, I was gonna say, I really like the way you describe the process of giving attention to the things that even the things that are bothering you so that they can go ahead and transform into joy. So I'm gonna hashtag shadow work, and then I'm also gonna hashtag find my joy.
Yes, we are achieving the purpose of the book right here. I mean, and I think for me, just breathing continues to breathing connects me to my joy, and so I'm gonna
Mhm.
definitely hashtag connect to joy, but I'm gonna
Mhm.
hashtag breathe for my joy. I think that'll probably be
Ooh,
pretty good.
breathe
I
for
like
my
that.
Yeah.
joy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think of my, I mean, really, I know this is cheesy to say, but mine would probably be hashtag interplay. Because,
Mm.
when I interplay, y'all know, because we've interplayed together, it brings
Mhm.
that joy, it brings that breath, it brings that emotional and mental wellness. And I know we're almost out of time, but Monisha, right when you said that about the book, I'm like, we really haven't talked about the book. So let's do
Oh,
a
yeah.
quick talk, real quick, before we sign off on what you got coming out. Tell us about the book that I talked about in your intro.
Yeah, so I have been working on this book for a little bit, for like 3 years off and on, but this book is called We Move for Our Own Joy, learning the language of our physicality. And what it really is, it takes the reader from um these 8 years where I was so miserable in my full-time job, but that outside of work, I was experimenting in all of these different forms that were body-based. And
Mhm.
I call that section awe awakening, because there was just this, we talk in interplay about sneaky deep. And I was like, wait a minute, what was that? What was that? Where did that come from? And I was just tapping into this hidden intelligence. And it was really present for me. And so that leads to a series of things where I finally decide to take a sabbatical from that job. And it's underneath that story. It's really my story of finding belonging, or looking for belonging, because of my own childhood experiences, very much feeling bereft and feeling, left out. And that was the baggage I took into this void space, where I didn't, I'd left the structure that I knew. And so
Mhm.
then so while there's this personal story, so those were the years where the form that came out to embrace me was interplay. And it was really me learning about who I was and how I was wired as a person who listens with my whole body. And I learn, and it shows people how I was able to turn to my body for with questions and, receive guidance, and how it helped make me from an anxious person into and just so much breaking my bubble of safety, getting me more into play, finding my voice, and really releasing me into freedom. Now I know that when I belong to myself, I move freely. That's
Oh,
kind of the,
gorgeous.
yeah.
Mm.
I love that.
Oh,
Yeah,
we can't wait.
Yay!
And when it comes out, we'll have you back, Monisha, and
thank
we'll
you.
we'll do we'll connect the audience onto how to find your book. And I am just so excited for you,
Well,
my friend.
thank you for this body blessing of being here with both of you.
Thank you.
This was I can feel my cells. They're so joyful. So thank you.
Thank you for being with us today. It's always so
Yes,
fun to
thank you.
chat, and
Pleasure.
we look forward to more, my friends.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Oh my goodness, Cecile.
Wow. Yeah, that was a lot in a little bit of time. That was a
Right?
lot, but it was all good.
Right? What stuck out to you about emotional and mental wellness that Monisha
Oh my
brought to you?
goodness. I loved the well, I always love this, the idea that you don't have to put everything into words, that you can
Right?
have your emotions and your experiences
Right?
without putting labels on them, and you can process them without having to put words to it.
Right? In
That's
Interplay, we
that's
have a
huge.
saying that you don't have to articulate your experience to have had it.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah, and
So
I think
important.
that's a huge thing for a lot of people. I mean, we're
Right?
so used to, especially like when people talk about therapy, you got to describe it. And, when
Mhm.
you're trying to tell other people how you feel, you put it into words. And
Mhm.
sometimes you can't even do that for yourself. So just the idea of you can have your experience without putting it into words is that's a big thing.
Absolutely. Well, and I really loved her Big Love Alchemy and talking about like
Yeah.
sound vibration
Mm.
and,
I
you
know you
know,
love that. With
oh,
all of your
oh,
sound
just
therapy.
so makes my heart like so joyful, right?
Right.
So joyful. Well, I am so grateful to you, my friend, being able to be here and be a guest co-host today.
Oh,
Before
well,
we close
yeah.
tonight, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor,
Hmm.
Shalo Glow. And, Shannon is so good about talking about Shalo, but you and I both have experienced her
Hmm.
products.
I was
So,
gonna say Shayla Glow works.
right?
It works. That time when I was at that retreat with you guys, and she did the Shayla Glow with the oil, and then the shea butter on top. My skin went from, it wasn't exactly ashy, but it wasn't glowing. But afterwards, it was glowing and it was soft. Oh my goodness, yes, Shayla Glow works.
Right? Best advertising ever. And for our listeners, Shannon so generously gives us a discount code. So if you go to shaloglow.com, you can put in WISE5 and get a discount on whatever you purchase for the website,
Wow,
including her
cool.
subscription, right? Isn't
I was
that
getting ready to
cool?
ask if that applies to the subscription.
I think so, but don't quote me
Okay.
on that. Go try it and come back and let us know, right? And
Yeah.
also, if you know somebody, a female in your community that is just kicking butt and taking names
Mhm.
and is doing all those things, Shalo Glow every month honors a Shayro in the
Mhm.
community, and they honor them by sending them self care goodies and
That is so
products.
awesome.
Right? So if you
Yes.
know somebody that you're like, "Oh, they need a little extra love. They need a little extra," you nominate them. And so what you do is you email my Shayro to shayloglow.com, and that's in our show notes. And your person may get picked that month. So I
Mhm.
think it's next week that we announce August Shayro. So that's coming up.
All
So
right.
all right, my friend. I can't believe that we are already to this point, but here we are, y'all. We
Mhm.
thank you for listening. Thank you for liking and subscribing. It really does help us. And until next time, be well, be wise, and be whole.